Salam sejahtera Dr. M. Yong Ken Soon from Group 6, Section 31. Today I would like to explain about the question that Dr. asked us to do last week, which is question 41 until 50, and also question 94. So for the first question 41A, Question 41, we are required to use the partial differentiation to determine the dy dx in each of the following case. So for the first question, which is question A, first we need to change it from fraction form to the integer form, and after that we will rearrange the equation to make sure it will equal to 0 so that we can find the fxy. So we are asked to find dy dx, so the formula is negative fx over fy, which is for fx, which is delta f over delta x, and also fy is delta y over delta f over delta y. So we can find the equation from the fxy. So for question B, also we rearrange it to make sure it equal to 0. Then later we can find the fxy. So for dy dx, it is equal to negative delta f over delta x, and then it will over delta f over delta y, so it will become like this. For question C, also rearrange it to equal to 0 and find the fxy, and also use the formula negative fx over fy, which is for fx is differential equation from delta f over delta y, and fy is differential equation from delta f over delta y. So for question D, also rearrange it to make sure it equal to 0, find the fxy and use the same formula. So for question E, question F also, first we need to rearrange them to make sure them equal to 0 and find the fxy, and also use the formula negative fx over fy. So for question 42, also same, the question required us to find the dy dx to call us to prove that dy over dx equal to negative sine x cosec y. So first we need to rearrange the question to make sure it equal to 0, and after that we can find the fxy already. So for dy over dx, we need to use the formula negative fx over fy. For fx is differential equation of delta f over delta x. So for fy is delta f over delta y, so that we insert the value, then we can find the answer is equal to negative sine s cosine y cosec y. So for question 43, the question want us to show the delta r over delta r1 and also delta r over delta r2 and delta r over delta r3. So first the question given us 1 per r equal to 1 per r1 plus 1 per r2 and 1 per r3. So first we need to rearrange them to find the r. So it will use our knowledge about fraction to rearrange it, and then after that we can find the r, the value of r. So after we find the value of r, we can do the delta r over delta r1, so that we can find the answer, which is r2 r3 over r2 over r1 r2 plus r1 r3 plus r1 r2. Also it is r2 r3 per r1 r2 r2 r3 plus r1 r3 plus r1 r2, and it will become a square. So after we find the dr over dr1, we can also find the the delta r over delta 2. For the below here, it will same, but for the upstairs, for r2 and r3, it will change the r2 to r1 r3, and for the delta r over delta 3, it will change to r1 multiplied r3. For question 44, we asked to use the implicit differentiation to show the equation below. So first, we need to find the equation of x. So in this question, our f will include x, y, and u. So same, it will equal to sin u negative x plus y over square root x plus square root y. So now, by the requirement of question, we need to find the delta u over delta x, so it will equal to negative fx over fu. So now we can find the delta f over delta x and also the delta f over delta u. Then we can put inside this formula and find the final answer. And also we need to find the delta u over delta y. So the formula is negative fy over fx, fy over fu, sorry. So now also same, we can find the delta y, delta f over delta y, and also delta f over delta u. So now we can insert the value inside, and then we can find the final answer. After we find the delta u over delta x and also delta u over delta y, we can insert in this equation and find the final answer to prove it the answer. So for question 45, is same. The question required us to find the delta u over delta x, delta u over delta y, delta u over delta z. So for delta u over delta x is equal to delta u over delta t multiplied with delta t over delta x, and delta y and delta u over delta y will equal to delta u over delta t multiplied delta t over delta y, and for delta u over delta z, it will equal to delta u over delta t multiplied with delta t over delta z. So because now we don't know the value of u, so for all the delta u and per delta t, we will remain it constant in the form of delta u over delta t. So because we already has been given the value of t equal to square root x squared plus y squared plus z squared, so we can now do the differentiate we can find the differential equation from t. So for delta t over delta x, we will get x over t, and delta t over delta y, we can get y per t. Delta t over delta z, we can find it is the value is delta z over delta t. So for this t, actually the value is square root x squared plus y squared plus z squared. So after we find the value, we can insert it into the equation that the question are required, and after that we can find the final answer. For question 46, we are required to find delta r, delta r over delta x, delta r over delta y, delta over delta x, delta over delta y. So we already has been given the r equal to square root x squared plus y squared, so that we can find the differential equation for all the requirement of the question. After that, after that, because the question need us to verify that delta I over delta y, that after that over with delta r over delta x, that is equal to negative delta over delta x over by delta per delta y. So we just take the value that we already find to insert in the formula, and then after that we can prove that they will become equal, that their answer will become equal, which is y per x. So for question 47, we are required for find the delta z over per delta u. So for delta z per delta u, the formula is delta z per delta x multiplied with delta x per delta u plus delta z per delta y multiplied with delta y per delta u. So after that, because we already has been given the x and y value, then we can do the then we can find the differential equation already for all the requirement of question. Then after we find the differential equation, we just insert back to our first equation. So we are also required to find the delta z over delta v. So also it will equal to delta z per delta x multiplied with delta x per delta v plus delta z per delta y multiplied with delta y per delta v. So also from the question, we can find the differential equation from the value x and y. After that, we can insert back the value to our first equation. So after that, we can doing uh, delta z over delta u minus delta z per delta u, and after that we can insert all the value and find the final answer. So for question 48, we are required to find the delta f over delta u first. So for delta f over delta u, it will become delta f per delta x multiplied delta x per delta u plus delta f per delta y multiplied with delta y per delta u. So also from the question already given the value of x and y, and we can use it to find the differential equation by following the requirement of question. Then after that we can insert back the value to the first equation and find the final equation for delta f over delta u. So for delta f over delta v, it will equal to delta f per delta x multiplied with delta x per delta v plus delta y per delta f per delta y multiplied with delta y per delta v. And also we can find the requirement of the question first for the differential equation and then insert back to the formula, then get the final formula for delta f over delta v. So because the question do not given a the query value of z, so for the value of z, oh no, we just do like this one. So after that we find the value of delta f over delta u and delta f over delta v. We can insert to the equation delta f over delta u minus delta f over delta v, so that we can find the final answer of them. So because the question did not give us the query value of f, so that for all about f like df over dx, df over dy, we will element it in the constant form, which is in delta y delta per delta f x delta f per delta y. So for question 49, we are required to find delta f over delta u. So the formula is delta f per delta x multiply delta x per delta u, and also plus delta f over delta y multiply delta y per delta u plus delta f per delta z multiplied with delta z per delta y. From the when e is compared to last question, the difference is it got the extra z value, so we need to do the delta f over delta z multiply delta z over delta u also. So after that we can find the equation and then we can insert it into the equation given by question to call us to find that final answer. So for question 15, we are required to find VR which is delta V over delta R. So it will become delta V over delta X multiply delta X over delta R plus delta V per delta Y multiply delta Y per delta R plus delta U per delta Z multiply delta Z per delta R. So from the question we already can get the differential equation for delta x over delta r and also delta y over delta r and also delta u over delta x, delta u over delta y, delta u over delta x. So after we find the equation, we can insert back to our first equation so that we can find VR, the value of VR, which is delta v over delta r. So for the question of v delta, they use the same method. We find the equation first. V delta is equal to du is dv over d delta is equal to delta u over delta x multiply delta x delta plus delta u over delta y multiplied delta y delta plus delta u delta z multiplied delta z over delta. So after that, from equation we can find the differential equation and insert it into the first formula, then we can get the final answer. So for question 94 is the question given a box having only 5 rectangular sides is required to have their given formula to given volume V. We need to determine the dimensions so that the software will be a minimum. So first, we assume it is 3 dimensions, so got 3 axes, y axis, x axis and z axis. So the volume will become x multiplied y multiplied z. So the xy, we assume it is the axis at the bottom of the rectangular, so that we can find the area of the rectangular is equal to xy plus 2xz plus 2yz. So because we need the volume, so v will be constant and the value of a, which is area, will be minimized. So now from the equation above, we can get z equal to v over xy, and we insert to the formula of area, we can get a equal to xy plus 2v over y plus 2v over x. So now we need to do the differentiation for the volume. So the first is delta x over the delta a over delta x, and also delta a over delta y. So after that we can get the value of y is equal to 2v over x squared, and x is 2v over y squared. So now we can find the value of xy is equal to 4v over x squared y squared, and after that we can find x y equal to square cube root for v. So now for question z equal to v over xy, we can insert the value of xy into this equation, and after that in final we can get is equal to 4v power by 2 by 3 over 4v, and the final is z equal to v of power 2 by 3 and cube root 4. So since y equal to 2v over x squared from above, so then we can find the value of x is equal to 2v over 4v squared over x power by 4. So on here we assume that y is equal to x. So this x power by 4 also take from above. We assume that y is x. So after that we can find the final value of x, which is square root, which is cube root 2v, and also the y is also cube root 2v.